In 2021, I watched 114 films that I hadn't seen before. Of those films, 41 were released in 2021. There was a good mix of films and genres, although I think I ended up seeing a lot more horror films this year than usual, which may be fitting considering modern events. You'll see some of them pop up in the coming lists. A full list of what I've seen can be found on my Letterboxd account if you're curious. Any discussion on spoilers will be timestamped, so you can skip spoiler talk if you haven't seen the film yet. So let's get to it. Here are my top 5 worst and best films of 2021. The worst. Number 5. Love Hard. Look, I was cat-sitting and it was on the front page of Netflix. The plot of this dramatic comedy has Natalie catfished by Josh on a dating app, so she decides to seduce the real man in the profile's photos. There's not a lot going on in this movie and it's very formulaic, so to really talk about its problems, it's time for spoilers. The film tries too hard to make Natalie stand out as a cool main character, because her argument that Die Hard is a Christmas movie literally inspires the title of the film, and she's adamant in her hatred for beloved Christmas film Love Actually, because it's too superficial. This obviously sets up the dumb, hypocritical story when she's catfished by Josh and then changes her personality to be more appealing to the real, attractive person from the photos, Tag. Tag calling her out on this then leads her to realise she's in love with the less attractive Josh, the original catfisher, and a man she has exactly zero romantic chemistry with. This is such a catfish apologist movie. Nina Dobrev, you need a better agent. Just like John McClane is hard to die in Die Hard, this film is hard to love, and therefore appropriately named. Number 4. Army of the Dead. This film annoyed me because I really liked Zack Snyder's previous zombie film, Dawn of the Dead. I was expecting a similar film, one that focused on different people mixing and surviving together. Army of the Dead follows a group of criminals breaking into a lockdown Las Vegas to retrieve $200 million from a casino vault. Thing is, Vegas is filled with zombies, so it's on extra hard difficulty. Snyder really phoned it in. The characters are so selfish, and the entire plot is riddled with tropes and cliches that exacerbate how lazily made this film was. The dialogue was very on the nose and felt forced, in order to deliver necessary exposition quickly.
Trade? No trade. Really? Yes, an offering to show our subservience.
What are you talking about? They don't think.
Shoot this bitch!
If they come, we kill them.
You don't understand. They're not what you think they are.
Shoot her in the face!
We're not talking about shamblers here. You're right. They don't think, they just move and eat. But we're talking about the other ones.
The alphas.
Yes, they're smarter, they're faster, they're organized. Straight out of your fucking
It's just bad. Spoilers from here. I think we're meant to care about the relationship between Batista and his daughter. I don't know how though, because Kate is really unlikable and stupid in her self-righteous quest to save an immigrant mother in Vegas. This quest spans the whole movie, until they escape and the helicopter crashes, at which point she doesn't even check to see if the woman she wanted to save had survived the crash, after getting so many people killed to find her. It's not just Kate though. A lot of the plot progressed on stupid character choices. This film would have been more fun if it hadn't taken itself so seriously. If it was less focused on creating the start of a new money-grabbing franchise. If it had characters that the audience could care about. It was crazy long as well, being 2.5 hours of moments that made me laugh out loud at its absurdity, rather than appreciate a fun zombie action flick. Also, Snyder made me think about 2 zombies, one of which was made out to be hot, having sex, and making a zombie baby. And that is unforgivable. Number 3. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I was really looking forward to this film. I love the horror genre, and the first 2 Conjuring films. Time was spent with the characters to get you to like and understand them better, before kicking off the horror, most notably in the case of Ed and Lorraine Warren. When you care about the characters, seeing them in peril makes their situations feel more suspenseful. Additionally, having the Warrens return in this 3rd installment to investigate a murderer who blames demon possession on his recent crime was an interesting departure from their previous haunted house stories. Although the series contained them, I never felt like the Conjuring series relied on cheap jump scares, dim lighting, or nonsensical character decisions to progress its plot. James Wan's Conjuring films would keep the tension rolling for longer than normal, and a classic jump scare didn't always end the tension, maintaining a creepy, unnerving presence throughout the film. The third Conjuring film had a new director, and let me tell you, he loves dim lighting and jump scares. He loves the easy route of making forgettable, typical horror films without any forethought and consideration. This film, despite my own problems with the story, could have been much better with a different, more courageous director, and characters whose lamps actually worked beyond a foot of light. The Conjuring series claims to be based on true events and people. However, it was a very weird and, dare I say, inappropriate choice to have the story be about a murderer who acted as a consultant on the film. The film painted Arne Johnson as a sympathetic victim and subject of demon possession. Of course, the Conjuring series is fiction, but to end the film with real-life text letting us know that this guy is happily in love with the same girlfriend from the film, and now free, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like we're meant to feel good for him, and his freedom is deserved because he was possessed? This is emphasised by depicting his real-life victim as an annoying and rough drunk in the film. It distorts reality and fiction in quite an unpleasant way. The biggest sin of the film, though? It wasn't scary. Number 2. Spiral, from the Book of Saw. I heard about this film a couple of years ago. Apparently Chris Rock was really pushing for this Saw spin-off because he wanted to do something new with the franchise. He helped to write the film and stars as the lead, Detective Banks. The chairman of Lionsgate, the studio behind Saw, said, "When Chris Rock came to us and described in chilling detail his fantastic vision that reimagines and spins off the world of the notorious Jigsaw killer, we were all in." So I was interested in seeing something more than just a list of how to murder people in increasingly strange and gruesome ways, and maybe get back to the mystery and intrigue of the original film. Well, this film is a lazy spin-off to the Saw series, and gives the audience absolutely nothing fresh to experience. There are Saw traps, and the detectives are trying to figure out who the killer is because the detectives are the targets. But even the Saw traps are forgettable. The only slightly interesting thing about it is that Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock play father and son, despite being 16 years apart in age. Was Chris Rock's character meant to be played by someone younger? Or are we just glossing over the fact that it's amazing Samuel L. Jackson's character accomplished so much while being a teen dad? Chris Rock is awful as the lead. He's wooden in his acting and the opposite of interesting or charming. He is surrounded by corrupt cops, but still manages to be the biggest ass in the film. Because the film has detectives as its core cast, the film is rife with detective tropes. Detective Banks is old, grumpy, disillusioned by the world, and struggling to live up to his father's legacy. His chief is exhausted by him, but believes in him no matter what, and pairs him up with a rookie to help teach them both about responsibility. The writing is egregiously lazy. Number 1. Old. Oh, M. Night Shyamalan, you had me feeling hopeful after I enjoyed some of your more recent films. I heard the graphic novel Old is based on was very good, with an existential dread and horror to it as the characters age rapidly on this mysterious, inescapable beach. Unfortunately, M. Night decided that these ideas were too complex, and it would be more interesting if they took the basic plot and avoided all that thinky nonsense that came with the original source material. Somehow, this film has a fantastic cast that M. Night worked very hard to ensure gave the most bland performances of their careers. Alex Wolff, Eliza Scanlon, and Thomasin McKenzie featured as the teenage characters on the beach, and were given nothing of substance to work with, other than looking scared and shocked. There were no interesting conversations to explore as the characters were forced to speed through their lives. The film felt like such a drag as they all ran around like headless chickens, trying to figure out how to get out, which is a reasonable response, sure, but gets boring after about 20 minutes. There was plenty of time to explore so many interesting themes and thoughts, but this was sidelined for drama and action. The writing is abysmal. The film starts by telling us the characters' names and occupations, and that forms their entire character. The therapist character constantly wants everyone to talk about things and feelings to a ridiculous degree.
Gather! Come on, come on, come on! Everyone needs to have a voice here.
Are you sure we have time for this?
We will make destructive decisions if we don't feel safe with each other. I know we don't have time, but...
And the insurance actuary constantly cites the statistics of deaths and accidents in each predicament.
Most people who die on vacation die from sun exposure, overexertion, overindulgence of food or alcohol, or a mixture of all of the above 99.4% of the time.
How you know all this?
I'm an actuary. I calculate people's insurance rates based on their risk profile.
We're on a beach with 2 unrelated dead bodies. That is just statistically impossible.
The makeup could have been a highlight, but was so lazy and the special effects were awful. The aging 1 year per 30 minutes is established early, but after swapping out some child actors once or twice, they give up for a while. Even when technically the kids should now be in their 30s or the parents should be reaching retirement age in appearance. Spoilers from here. I didn't mind the twist because the setting was so boring and refused to live up to the fantastic premise. When it became apparent there was no escape, until M. Night's twist, I wanted more from the characters' responses to the situation, psychologically. I mean, a 6-year-old girl, aged rapidly, experienced sex and pregnancy, the death of her child and grandmother, all in the matter of a few hours, and this is all glossed over for the sake of drama. Her mind is making 1 billion connections a second, and instead we get a shocking teen pregnancy before she falls to her death trying to escape. I didn't care about any of the characters. It all felt so silly and predictable. One by one, they die. There's a ridiculous CG'd moment where Crystal's hypocalcemia causes her bones to twist and break while she chases down the teenagers. The CGI is so bad, and the only effort to make this young actress look older by about 15 to 20 years is to mess up her makeup and have her in a dimly lit cave. This movie was incredibly lazy and wasted its potential immensely. I read a summary of the book, and although M. Night takes the story further in his film by adding his own Shyamalan twist, he misses the actual point of the story, that life is fragile and fleeting, and death is inevitable. In a better filmmaker's hands, this could have been quite a poignant, meaningful, and emotive film about life, death, and aging. And maybe the happy ending of the two escaping could still have worked. But when whittled down to the lowest common denominator by M. Night, this film becomes a forgettable snooze fest. The best. It was far harder to pick a top 5 list because I'm pleased to say there were more films I loved than hated in 2021. I'll be including some honourable mentions in this section too. I would also love more people to check out these films, so I will be very careful with spoilers beyond basic plot. Also, you thought horror or thriller films would only feature in the worst section? We got some gems this year too. Number 5. The Suicide Squad. James Gunn breathed new life into the Suicide Squad series. The higher age rating allowed much more gore and violence, which made sense for a film focused on a team of selfish, ruthless villains. It was shocking and added to the comedy when these cocky characters were killed off in increasingly insane ways. The cast was way bigger than in the original film, so anyone could go at any point. What I appreciated most was Gunn didn't retcon 2016 Suicide Squad, or pretend certain things didn't happen. There is continuity, and this isn't a lazy do-over. It's also just made better in general. For example, instead of having character traits explicitly listed on screen, the characters chat to each other throughout the film, and therefore develop a camaraderie and understanding with each other that makes you care about them. There's even a comedic element when Waller repeats her exposition from the first film.
In his hands, anything is a deadly weapon. His father was a soldier who trained his son how to kill from the moment he was born.
Are you having a laugh?
What?
You just said each member of the team is chosen for their unique abilities. He does exactly what I do, but better.
This film was hilarious. There were wacky-looking characters that looked like they could come straight from a comic book, jokes that landed without trying too hard, and ridiculous moments that worked because the film never took itself super seriously.
Did anyone check on whether the weasel could swim?
Let's get into spoilers. From the original film, the characters of Harley Quinn, Rick Flag, Amanda Waller, and Captain Boomerang returned. Harley chats Flag and Boomerang like old friends, and you can feel Harley's horror when she notices Boomerang is about to die. Her character development from Birds of Prey is even acknowledged, such as when she rejects the evil dictator for reminding her of the Joker.
Recently, I made a promise to myself that the next time I got a boyfriend, I'd be on the lookout for red flags, and if I saw any, I would do the healthy thing. And I would murder him.
And her action scenes add the colourful weirdness seen in Birds of Prey. The Suicide Squad feel like villains and assholes. Even though Bloodsport, in a similar vein to Deadshot, is doing the mission for his daughter, he's awful to her and everyone else. Waller is made more sinister and cruel by threatening Bloodsport's daughter to get him to participate in the squad. Peacemaker is violent and has a twisted set of morals.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
Ratcatcher 2 and Polka Dot Man are pretty tragic characters with a softer side to them. This actually got some tears out of me, such as when Ratcatcher is thinking of her father when she's controlling the rats to save the city. A big complaint from the first film was how the stakes were way too big for the team. This film has the Suicide Squad going for the more attainable goal of blowing up a laboratory. The team was not intended to fight Starro. From the outset, their goals are achievable, but dangerous. James Gunn's approach to music is amazing, as seen in his most famous film, Guardians of the Galaxy, where his filmmaking and camera work is tied in with the music, not just edited in later as an afterthought.
Kathy was 11 when she pulled the plug. 26 reds and a bottle of wine. Bobby got leukemia.
Number 4. Run. Run follows an overeager and possessive mother looking after her chronically ill teenage daughter, Chloe, as Chloe prepares to start the next stage of her life independently at college. It is intensely gripping, and the performances of Sarah Paulson as Chloe's mother Diane and Kira Allen as Chloe carry this film brilliantly. I went into this film pretty blind, encouraged by Sarah Paulson's participation and that the film wasn't just another Ryan Murphy property. So, if you haven't seen Run, I'd recommend doing the same, but for me to really express how much I love this film, it's time to talk spoilers. I really respected how well this extremely sheltered and medically impaired teenager navigated the terrifying realization that her mother was making her ill. Her best friend and confidant, her protector, was purposely isolating and hurting her. The additional terrifying part that comes with this film is knowing about a famous case of a mother poisoning her child under the illusion of ill health. Dee Blanchard had Munchausen's by proxy, and poisoned her daughter, Gypsy Rose, repeatedly for attention and sympathy. In order to escape, Gypsy Rose ended up orchestrating the murder of her mother and has since reported feeling much more free in prison. While Run has a lot in common with the Blanchard case, it isn't simply a reenactment or drama about parents poisoning their children for attention or love. The film can be an allegory for helicopter parenting or parents who see children as no more than an extension of themselves, or as an opportunity to control someone else. This is very toxic for both parties, as Chloe feels like a burden on her mother and isolated from the world, while Diane is a very needy, broken, and manipulative person whose whole life revolves around her daughter. This is an incredibly tense, emotional film. It is not a subject matter treated lightly. Even when Chloe is trying to solve the mystery of her mother's actions and her own medical health, she's struggling with the realization that her mother is not a good person. Run felt like a modern-day Misery, but more terrifying because you expect your parent to be your protector, not your captor. And while Misery felt like a crazy, near-impossible horror story, there is an unfortunate reality to Run's story. Number 3. A Quiet Place Part 2. I really liked A Quiet Place Part 1 for its unique concept, intensity, sound design, and the focus on family. John Krasinski returned to direct and write Part 2. This worked well for maintaining continuity in both story and style of filmmaking, because the sequel starts immediately after the last one ends. The sound design in the first film was very well done, therefore the sequel's world felt the same, and just as dangerous, because any sound could attract these deadly creatures in an instant. The sequel remains incredibly tense and focuses on the Abbott family trying to survive while not making any noise. It's just as brutal and suspenseful as the original, and had me constantly on edge. I genuinely care about the family and their survival, so tension was nearly constantly high, which is a difficult mood to maintain. Because this is a sequel, there are spoilers aplenty for the series, so let's dive in. The film does not hold back on brutality, matching the tone from the original when the family's toddler was killed playing with a rocket. Almost right off the bat, Marcus accidentally steps into a bear trap when trying to escape a sound trap. The film does not shy away from his screams and immense pain, which has a second danger of attracting the monsters that killed his father and little brother. There are a lot of incredibly tense sequences with brilliant sound design and visuals. My favourite scene was the ending sequence, which cut between Reagan and Marcus, who were both in different situations against the creatures, performing a last stand of sorts. Likewise, there is a shot where Evelyn is trying to escape the creatures in a flashback that felt extremely tense, despite knowing the characters survived the flashback. Casting Cillian Murphy as Emmett was perfection. He is equally threatening and sympathetic when reintroduced in the present day, now isolated and without the young son he had in the flashback. Emmett naturally, although reluctantly, slips into the father figure role John Krasinski left behind. He is troubled, mostly resistant to the family's pleas for help, and it is heartwarming when the audience sees him go from closed off to ready to sacrifice himself for Reagan. His and Reagan's relationship, as well as the relationships between the entire Abbott family, provide a much-needed relief and comfort from the strong tension. Although they are trapped in a horrible dystopian world, the characters look after each other and are still full of so much hope and love. Number 2. Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho proved that Edgar Wright is a cinematic force. Wright has created a phenomenal, intense mystery thriller with an enchanting soundtrack and a brilliant cast and script to match. Last Night in Soho tells the story of Ellie, who experiences visions of the past when she moves into a London flat. These visions begin to deeply affect Ellie and blend the past and present, while she tries to figure out the mystery of what happened to the woman in her visions, Sandy. Anya Taylor-Joy plays Sandy, and I've been a fan of her since The Witch. Last Night in Soho is definitely my favourite of her performances so far. Likewise, Thomasin McKenzie and Matt Smith bring equally fantastic performances as Ellie and Jack respectively. Last Night in Soho is a less intense experience than A Quiet Place Part 2 or Run, but it has plenty of powerful scenes. This is balanced by some incredibly beautiful cinematography, swinging 60s dancing imagery, and an intriguing mystery. Last Night in Soho is a love letter to the 60s, its music and its fashion in particular, explored through the main protagonist, Ellie. The film also has some very authentic feeling sequences of Ellie arriving at university, and the feeling of isolation and otherness that comes with that transition. This film is more than a mystery or thriller. It actually touches on some very emotional notes and potentially upsetting realities that I didn't expect. To talk about that, though, means it's time for spoilers. In the 1960s flashback, Sandy is a confident, talented young woman who knows what she wants, but is manipulated and controlled by the seedy men of Soho. Throughout the 1900s, Soho became known as a base for the sex and entertainment industry, and it is here where Sandy is trapped, exploited, and used until her presumed murder at Jack's hands. The men from the past are faceless shadows of themselves, It's not important who they are because to Sandy and Ellie, they all share the same distinction: their abuse and use of young women who in any normal circumstances would not submit to their advances. Even in death, they are still threatening presences, clawing at and following Ellie. The moment I knew this film was going to be one of my favourites in 2021 was in the finale, when these men, revealed as the murder victims of Sandy, begged Ellie for help. And I thought, screw you, no! Because these men used their power and money to abuse women and were killed when one fought back. I'm not saying murder was the answer, and by no means is Sandy a faultless hero for her actions. Instead, they were monsters who turned their victim into a monster too. This is emphasised by Sandy's attempts to kill Ellie and John in the present to cover up her crimes. Then, in Sandy's final moments, Ellie sees the young girl who had been twisted and corrupted by her trauma and the men that had inflicted it upon her. It is an incredibly emotional visual, as it demonstrates how Sandy never really grew past this trauma and is just as trapped as the men she killed. When she chooses to die, despite Ellie's pleas, it's because she's lost herself and her humanity through her crimes. Last Night in Soho was incredibly emotional, led by some fantastic performances. The film was not at all what I expected when I heard Edgar Wright was making a 1960s-inspired, stylish horror thriller. It delivered on the style and the substance in a way that surprised and completely blew me away. Honourable Mentions. Spencer. Kristen Stewart stars as Princess Diana in what the film describes as a fable from a true tragedy. This film speculates on what it was like for Diana as she made the decision to end her marriage to the Prince of Wales in 1992, taking artistic liberties to depict her mental turmoil as she tries to escape a very difficult situation. Stewart is brilliant as Diana, in what could be an award-winning performance. The writing is fantastic and the shots and costumes are beautiful. Moxie. Moxie was directed by Amy Poehler and follows a teen girl who publishes a feminist magazine in her school to encourage the girls and women of the community to fight back against the sexism they face daily. This film isn't trying to change the world or deliver any new hard truths, but wants to encourage its audience to stand up for themselves and others. It's a sometimes emotional, sometimes powerful, and overall very good film with some great characters and lessons. West Side Story. This film was incredible, and one of the last films I saw in 2021, which feels fitting as the upcoming number one choice for this list was one of the very first films I saw in 2021. The acting, the dancing, the singing, the story, everything, it was fantastic. Ariana DeBose stood out the most as Nita, as well as David Alvarez as Bernardo, overshadowing the main couple multiple times. The third act really kicks up the intensity and excitement of the story, and somehow the film still manages to end at just the right moment. Number 1. Promising Young Woman. This film deeply affected me, from the story to the acting to the music. I was captivated from start to finish. This is a beautifully crafted film with some stunning shots and fantastic acting. Promising Young Woman was directed, written and produced by Emerald Fennell. Carey Mulligan stars as Cassie, the promising young woman who pretends to be drunk until guys take her home, where she can reveal her sobriety and expose their predatory nature. This is perhaps the best performance of Mulligan's career. This film is a mastercraft of suspense, social and political commentary with gripping characters and story. It is emotionally devastating and powerful, yet it manages to balance these emotionally heavy scenes with some humour and relief. The scenes between Cassie and Bo Burnham's Ryan were incredibly cute and felt very genuine, which was a much needed break from the heaviness. The script is fantastic, never veering into parody or exaggeration. The scenarios and characters felt pretty realistic for the premise, which really added to the emotional impact of the film. And for that, we go into spoilers. What surprised me about the story of the film was that I had assumed Cassie was the one who had been assaulted in med school until Madison mentions it was Nina. The film depicts the fallout from these events not only on the victim, but on their loved ones, due to an inability to fix what has happened.
I'm just trying to fix it. Oh, come on, you can't. Don't be a child, Cassie.
Most want to move on from the past, such as Nina's mother, who begs Cassie to stop. Cassie is suffering from severe guilt for not being there for Nina on that night, and has been broken by that. She's become cold and single-minded in her pursuit of revenge through these fake drunken encounters.
Big deal. You just forgot your birthday. You don't want to have a party? You don't want to see your friends?
You know I don't have any friends, Mom.
Don't joke about it. Don't. Do you know how strange this is? You're still living here at home. Working in that stupid coffee shop since you and Nina dropped out of med school? You're out all night long doing God only knows what. Okay. And you don't have any boyfriend, you don't have any friends.
Mom, you should have saved all that for my birthday card.
It's also very self-destructive, as she's putting herself in a lot of danger. Cassie's guilt forces her to enter these situations as a source of penance and atonement. The ending was hard-hitting because it showed how the mentality of the friends worked, sticking together, covering up a crime, and protecting the perpetrator's feelings too.
Am I gonna go to jail?
What?
What about the wedding and my job? Anastasia's gonna be so upset with me.
Well, no, ow. It was an accident, right?
I mean,
It was an accident.
I mean, of course it was a fucking accident.
Yeah, of course it was a fucking accident. No one's gonna go to jail because no one's ever gonna find out.
This echoes the mindset of the Dean, who was more concerned about giving Al the benefit of the doubt and protecting his future than that of Nina and her future.
So you're happy to take the boy's word for it?
I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Of course you do.
Despite it being her sole purpose, the revenge or the setups never really made Cassie feel happy or satisfied. After she proves her point to the Dean, she is exhausted and miserable, lashing out on the male driver and ignoring Ryan in favour of another fake drunk outing. It actually shakes her when the lawyer is immediately remorseful, and then she forgives him. This pushes her to move on too, and she attempts a path of forgiveness and personal growth. That is, until she's given video evidence of Nina's assault and Ryan's involvement, reigniting her fury and shattering her hopes for a normal life. Cassie has given up most happiness or goals in her life to pursue revenge. In the end, she and Nina got justice, which was well deserved, but the film demonstrates the extreme lengths Cassie had to go to achieve this. Promising Young Woman does not have a happy ending. No one really wins. Yes, it's the better ending and the one the audience wants because justice is served. The gut punch ending of Cassie's death is what really makes this film stand out. In real life, a perfect happy ending would not fit the emotionally heavy subject matter, and Promising Young Woman echoes that. And that's a wrap on 2021. What was your favourite film, or least favourite? Do you agree with my picks and reasons? Let me know in the comments, as I'd love to hear what you think.